Pete, it's a pleasure to see you again, and definitely have a conversation about a topic that we're both very passionate about. I like the opportunities to catch up, discuss with you visual literacy and how it helps our colleagues improve safety and leadership in all organisations.
Well, thanks, Damien. I'm excited about this collaboration too. Since we met in Cleveland earlier in this year, I've really enjoyed conversations with you, learned a lot from you. One of the things that keeps coming up as we have these discussions, I've realized that the companies that you deal with in Australia and New Zealand, they face the same challenges that the companies that I work with here in the Americas and other part of the world are facing. And as we've discussed, visual literacy might be a good candidate for businesses that are trying to improve their safety performance.
It was definitely refreshing, Pete, and I'm concerned that we both face on the other two different sides of the world with two different cultures and ways of life. We all deal with the same hazards, the same issues, and I think the visual literacy concepts they work worldwide. So I think that was a great insight to me to get involved and to work on the improvements and the opportunities and give those advantages to the good people that we work with to improve their organizations.
Well said, Damien. We've talked about doing a series of these, so maybe we should introduce ourselves a little bit to our audience or potential audience. And I'll go first. Pete Batrowny. I started my career in the military. After that, I held several leadership roles in industry, starting out in operation type leadership roles, working plant operations, heavy construction, did a bit of mergers and acquisitions. And one of the companies that I worked for the longest period of time was having difficulties with serious injuries and fatalities. So I was asked to join the safety world, if you will, to kind of build a safety culture, build strong technical programs, and really come up with strategies to minimize, reduce the serious injuries and fatalities. And now that I'm doing consulting, we've had a chance to meet and collaborate, and really looking forward to working with you and your organization, Damien.
Absolutely, Pete. It was great to meet up. Yeah, my name's Damien Palazzi. I've worked in mining and heavy industry throughout Australia since I started my career. I come from an operational background and fell into training as a failed metallurgist. So some people might say that's a smart thing. Some people might say it's a bad thing. But I quickly realized that the safety world needed a good operational background, someone who understood what the guys who were doing the job needed in terms of health and safety, and training the guys over the years. I've been in training since 2010, and trained lots of different people all over the world, Papua New Guinea, all the way through Australia, and then meeting you guys over in Cleveland, Pete, certainly heightened my passion for safety again. And I think it's the visual literacy is something that I feel very passionate about, that we can certainly improve the hazard identification and then enhance the safety programs of the companies that we deal with.
Excellent. It might be a good idea at this point to give a little background about visual literacy and the organization that we're working with, the Center of Visual Expertise, or COVE, as it's more commonly known. It was introduced to me about 10 years ago. I went to a National Safety Council event, and Adam Levine and Doug, who is our colleague, gave a presentation on visual literacy at the National Safety Council event. And I immediately saw the potential in the applications in the safety world and in other areas of industry. But as you know, we're really focusing on safety right now, but I think it has a potential to improve personal safety, not only at work, but away from work as well. The skills that we teach are applicable when we're driving, we're working in our yard, or working in the garage, whatever hobbies we have that include potential hazardous energy, these visual literacy skills are going to be applicable.
Totally agree, Pete. And I understand Doug and Adam are leading Cove based at the Toledo Museum of Art. When I went, I managed to get to Cleveland and had the pleasure of meeting yourself. And then Doug come down and I had a good discussion with Doug. So they are based at the Toledo Museum of Art?
Yeah, that's right, Damien. Adam and his colleagues had been teaching visual literacy to people at the Toledo Museum of Art for many years. And Adam had the idea that there might be an application of these skills in the industrial world. And that's when Toledo Museum of Art partnered with Owens Corning. Doug got involved, and he was leading safety at Owens Corning at the time. And he began to explore areas where the visual literacy skills might add value, might have application in the industrial world. And safety is really where they began the application of these skills and techniques. And the rest we'll get into in further discussions. But I think it's really exciting, the focus of learning these visual literacy skills and applying them to the way that we manage safety in our organizations. And as I mentioned before, at home as well.
When I come across a Pete, I'd just done some risk management training, and I'm sure it's the same as we've discussed over in the US as it is here in Australia. A lot of we've been training risk assessment for a long time, and it's certainly improved our safety culture. But I think what I seen in the visual literacy and how I understood was the potential that it's got to not take away our risk assessment processes, but certainly enhance it. When one of the things that struck me was we see as little as 10%, and I remember doing the visual literacy introduction. One of the comments was about you stand in front of the pantry and you look for the bottle of, we call it tomato sauce, you guys call it ketchup, but it disappears into the abyss and you're looking for it, but you can't see it, even though you know it's there. And it was certainly, pardon the pun, but it was very eye-opening for me. So the concepts based on the fact that we don't see as well as we do, we don't teach people those things. Where visual literacy really done it. I remember, once again, your training, Pete, over in Cleveland, we walked into the hall and we had the big picture, and there was a lot going on in that picture that we've seen in the hall, and it had the boat at the background and the foreshore and that courtyard. And just when we were pointed out and challenged to look for different colors and shapes and lines, the amount of detail that we didn't see in that picture was quite confronting. And if you apply that into the work environment, then it becomes very scary as part of what we don't see, but also what we don't understand as the hazards in our workplace. And then if we do understand that, we take more appropriate actions based on what we observe, if we observe better and clearer, and the visual literacy certainly helps that.
Yeah, well said, Damien. It is amazing. And it was amazing to me to, come to that realization that, sometimes we don't see things, as you mentioned, that are right literally under our nose. But the good news is with visual literacy skills, like everything else, if we practice and make them habits, we can train ourselves to see more, be better observers, and make better use of the information that we're taking in with these visual literacy skills. Another thing that I've come to understand about visual literacy, or realization that I had, is that the skills and the techniques that we're teaching, they fit nicely with some of the other thought leadership and theory that we hear a lot about. High reliability organizations get talked a lot about in the safety world, as well as human and organizational performance, human factors, kind of those thought leadership topics that are prevalent right now in our industry. The visual literacy skills fit really nice with them. Developing personal skills and applying them to the world around us. It's a real key to leveraging the talent of people and really getting organizations to reach peak performance, and having the people be able to train themselves to see better, going to improve, like you mentioned, their hazard identification, but also the applications that it has in incident investigations, leadership capabilities building. So I really think that as we dig into the details of visual literacy, we'll see potential in a lot of areas of human and organizational performance.
I am absolutely agree, Pete. And I think some of the areas that we went into were the biases, the visual biases and the inherent personal biases. So having a knowledge of those concepts and how they impact on what you see and how you see was confronting for me to think about those, as I've never thought about them before. Like I said, we do a lot of risk management training here in Australia, but we don't really delve into how we think and what we perceive that we're going to see. And it made me have a better step in becoming more objective in identifying hazards. Obviously, that reduces risk, and I'm learning how those concepts have applications in other areas for safety. And back to what you were talking about, Pete, even when you go home into your shed, you get to look at things completely different, and you certainly the world becomes richer visually because you're starting to stop and take the time to really look at what's going on, not just that the quick brain. I think we referenced it, and it has applications in other areas for incident investigation, for fatality elimination, and serious injury. Because if you look at those hazards better, you apply those controls, then obviously you're reducing the exposure to and the frequency of those events happening. So I think if our listeners want more information, they can go to covectr.com. Hopefully the wonderful Kristen, who's producing our talk today, Pete, might be able to put a link in there. I'm sure I'm putting her on the spot now, but she's pretty magical in what she does. So if she can't, I apologize for that, Kristen, but thanks for your effort in producing us today.
She'll figure it out, I'm sure, Damien. And I hope this was useful for our listeners. And as we mentioned before, this is the first of a series, and the subsequent times we get together, we'll each time dig in a little bit deeper into the specific skills and how they might apply to various elements of operational and safety management systems. And I hope you our listeners found it useful. And I hope they tune in again to find out more about the skills and concepts that are associated with visual literacy. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks, Pete. And I will say to Australia and Asia Pacific listeners that if you go to sitetrain.com.au, sitetrain one word, then you'll find the visual literacy and the link back to the Cove Centre of Visual Literacy. And it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to bring it to Australia, Pete, and pleasure to talk to you, and look forward to many more discussions on how visual literacy and safety can be improved.
Thanks, Damien.
Thanks, Pete. Have a good day, mate.